Captain Jake Morrison stared at the mission briefing on his screen and rubbed his tired eyes. After 3 years of handling complex diplomatic situations across the galaxy, this assignment looked almost too easy. The Zephyrian Empire wanted human help with mining equipment on some remote colony called Nexus 7, simple tech consultation and basic trade talks. Nothing more. Jake walked through the corridors of the UHS Meridian, his boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. The ship had been his home for years now, and he knew every sound it made. His crew was small but reliable. Lieutenant Lisa Carter handled all the diplomatic stuff with a skill that impressed even the most difficult alien species. Chief Engineer Ben Rodriguez could fix anything that had wires or gears, and Communications Specialist Amy Sullivan could make any two species understand each other even when they spoke completely different languages. The ship's mess hall was quiet when Jake entered. Lisa sat at their usual table, reading through cultural files about the Zephyrians. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and she had that focused look she always got when studying a new species. "Morning, Captain," she said without looking up from her tablet. "Have you read the full briefing on this Nexus 7 mission yet?" Jake poured himself coffee from the dispenser and sat down across from her. Just the basics. Seemed straightforward enough. Help them optimize their mining equipment, establish some trade agreements, maybe learn about their crystal technology. "Why? Did you find something interesting?" Lisa frowned and turned her tablet toward him. The Zephyrians are usually very open about their business dealings. They pride themselves on transparency. But look at this. She pointed to a paragraph in the cultural notes. They're being unusually vague about what exactly they're mining on Nexus 7. Just says, standard mineral extraction, but won't specify which minerals. "Maybe it's competitive information," Jake suggested, taking a sip of his coffee. "Some species are secretive about their resources until they know you better." "That's just it, though," Lisa said. "We've dealt with the Zephyrians before. Remember the trade negotiations on Kepler Station last year? They were completely open about everything. Showed us detailed reports, mineral compositions, extraction methods. This secrecy is completely out of character for them." Ben Rodriguez entered the mess hall, his dark hair messy from sleep and his engineering uniform wrinkled. He grabbed a breakfast ration and joined them at the table. "Are we talking about the Zephyrian job?" he asked around a bite of synthetic eggs. "Lisa thinks there might be more to it than simple tech consultation," Jake explained. Ben shrugged. "Could be. Their request was pretty specific, though. They want help with deep core extraction efficiency. That usually means they're going after something really valuable that's buried deep. Maybe they just don't want to advertise what it is until they know we can actually help them get it out." Amy Sullivan appeared in the doorway, her red hair bright against her blue uniform. She held a coffee cup in one hand and a data pad in the other. "Sorry to interrupt, but I just finished reviewing the communication logs from our initial contact with the Zephyrians. There's something odd about the transmission patterns." She sat down and placed her data pad on the table where everyone could see it. "Look at this." The original request came through standard diplomatic channels, but there were several encrypted sub-transmissions buried in the data stream. I can't decode them with standard protocols, but they're definitely there. Jake leaned forward to study the readouts. Could be routine security protocols. The Zephyrians take data security seriously. "Maybe," Amy said, "but I've handled dozens of Zephyrian communications before. I've never seen this type of encryption in routine diplomatic messages. It's more like the kind of thing you'd use for military communications or state secrets." The 4 crew members sat in silence for a moment, each considering the implications. Finally, Jake made his decision. "Look, we might be reading too much into this. Sometimes a simple assignment really is just a simple assignment. But I want everyone to stay alert once we reach Nexus 7. If something feels off, we investigate. Lisa nodded. I'll prepare additional cultural research on Zephyrian mining operations and corporate structure. If there's something they're not telling us, maybe I can figure out what it is from context. I'll do a full technical analysis of their mining systems as soon as we arrive, Ben added. If they're hiding something about what they're extracting, the equipment requirements might give us clues. Amy gathered up her datapad. I'll monitor all communications while we're there. If there are more encrypted transmissions, I'll find them. Jake finished his coffee and stood up. Good. We'll reach Nexus 7 in about 6 hours. Get some rest and make sure all your equipment is ready. The journey to Nexus 7 passed quietly. Jake spent most of the time reviewing their diplomatic protocols and studying what little information they had about the colony. It had been established about 5 years ago as a joint venture between several Zephyrian noble houses. The population was listed as approximately 3,000, mostly miners and support staff. When they finally dropped out of hyperspace, Jake was surprised by what he saw. Nexus 7 was a small, rocky planet orbiting a dim red star. The colony itself looked prosperous enough, with several large industrial complexes and what appeared to be comfortable living quarters for the workers. But there were also more security installations than Jake would expect for a simple mining operation. Defensive satellites orbited the planet, and he could see what looked like military-grade shield generators around the main facilities. That's a lot of firepower for a mining colony, Ben observed from his engineering station. Amy's communications console beeped softly. Incoming transmission from the surface. They're directing us to landing pad 7. The landing was smooth, and Jake could see their welcoming committee waiting for them as the Meridian settled onto the metal platform. 3 Zephyrians stood near a ground transport vehicle. Jake recognized the tall, elegant build and the subtle blue-green skin that characterized their species. What surprised him was their body language. Even from a distance, he could see they seemed nervous. "Ready, team," Jake said as they gathered at the airlock. "Remember, this is supposed to be a friendly tech consultation. Let's keep it simple and see what they really want from us." The airlock cycled open, and Jake led his crew down the ramp. The Zephyrian air was thin but breathable, with a slightly metallic taste that reminded him of copper. The lead Zephyrian stepped forward and gave the traditional gesture of welcome, touching his forehead with his fingertips. "Welcome to Nexus 7, he said in accented but clear English. "I am Administrator Veltar. We are grateful that you have come to assist us with our technical challenges." Jake returned the gesture. "Captain Jake Morrison, U.S. Meridian. This is my team, Lieutenant Lisa Carter, Chief Engineer Ben Rodriguez, and Communications Specialist Amy Sullivan. We're looking forward to working with you." Administrator Veltar smiled, but Jake noticed it didn't reach his eyes. "Excellent. Please, come with me. We have prepared quarters for you, and tomorrow we can begin examining the mining equipment that requires your expertise." As they followed Veltar to the transport, Jake caught Lisa's eye. She gave him a barely perceptible nod. She had noticed the administrator's nervousness, too. This simple assignment was already feeling more complicated than it should be. Jake woke up in his assigned quarters feeling uneasy. The room was comfortable enough, with typical Zephyrian attention to practical design, but something had disturbed his sleep. He checked his chronometer and saw it was still early morning. By local time, through his window, he could see the mining operations beginning their daily cycle, with workers moving between the various buildings and transport vehicles carrying equipment to the extraction sites. He dressed quickly and made his way to the common area, where his team was supposed to meet Administrator Veltar for breakfast. Lisa was already there, sitting at a table with a cup of some kind of Zephyrian tea. She looked troubled. "Couldn't sleep either," she asked when she saw him approach. Jake sat down across from her. Something feels wrong here. I can't put my finger on it, but this whole place has an atmosphere that doesn't match what we were told. Ben and Amy joined them a few minutes later, both looking like they had slept poorly. Ben poured himself coffee from a dispenser that had been thoughtfully provided for the human guests. I did some preliminary scans of the mining equipment last night, he said quietly. The power requirements are way higher than they should be for standard mineral extraction. Amy nodded. And I picked up those encrypted transmissions again. Much stronger signal now that we're on the surface. Whatever they're hiding, it's big. Administrator Veltar arrived just as Amy finished speaking. He approached their table with the same nervous energy Jake had noticed the day before. Good morning, friends. I trust you slept well. Are you ready to begin examining our mining systems? Jake stood up and smiled. Absolutely. We're eager to see what kind of technical challenges you're facing. The administrator led them through the colony toward the main mining facility. Jake noticed that certain areas were marked with security barriers and warning signs in Zephyrian script. When he asked about them, Veltar quickly explained they were dangerous industrial zones that required special safety clearance. The main mining building was impressive, with massive extraction equipment that descended deep into the planet's crust. Ben immediately began examining the machinery, his engineer's eye taking in every detail. This is some serious hardware, he muttered to Jake. Way more advanced than they need for basic metal ore. Veltar stayed close to them, answering Ben's technical questions, but always seeming eager to move them along to the next piece of equipment. Jake began to suspect they were being given a carefully planned tour that avoided certain areas entirely. What exactly are you mining here? Lisa asked during a break in Ben's inspection. The geological surveys we reviewed were pretty vague about mineral composition. The administrator's expression became even more guarded. Various rare metals and crystalline compounds. Nothing too exotic, but valuable enough to justify the investment in this facility. Amy stepped closer to one of the monitoring stations and pretended to examine the display readings. Jake saw her quickly photograph several screens with a device hidden in her hand. She was documenting whatever information she could gather. As the morning progressed, Jake became increasingly convinced that they were not seeing the real mining operation. The equipment was impressive, but it was clearly designed for extracting something much more valuable than ordinary metals. The power consumption levels Ben was measuring suggested they were processing materials that required extremely precise environmental controls. During lunch, Veltar left them alone for a few minutes while he attended to some administrative matter. Jake immediately gathered his team around their table. Thoughts? He asked quietly. Ben spoke first. Those aren't standard mining systems. The quantum resonance chambers I saw are only used for processing materials with specific crystalline structures. And the power requirements suggest they're doing deep core extraction at levels that would only be justified for extremely rare compounds. Amy pulled out her hidden recording device. I got readings from their monitoring systems. The extraction depth goes down almost 2 kilometers, and the environmental controls are maintaining conditions that would only be necessary for. She paused and checked her readings again. For quantum crystals. Lisa looked surprised. Quantum crystals are restricted technology in the Zephyrian Empire. Only the royal family and their direct appointees are authorized to mine or process them. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. So either this operation is authorized at the highest levels of their government, or it's completely illegal. There's something else, Amy continued. While I was recording the monitoring data, I picked up fragments of internal communications. I couldn't translate everything, but I heard references to something called the Forbidden One and mentions of the royal mark. Before anyone could respond, Administrator Veltar returned to their table. "I hope you found the facility tour informative," he said. "This afternoon, I would like to show you our processing center where we refine the extracted materials." Jake smiled politely. "That sounds very interesting. But first, I'd like to see your worker housing and medical facilities. It's standard protocol for us to ensure that any operation we help improve meets basic humanitarian standards." Veltar's expression became uncomfortable. "I'm afraid that won't be possible today. The medical facility is undergoing maintenance, and the worker housing areas are restricted during shift hours for security reasons." Lisa leaned forward with her most diplomatic smile. "Perhaps we could speak with some of the workers directly. Getting their perspective on the mining process often helps us identify efficiency problems that management might not notice." "The workers are very busy," Veltar said quickly, "and most of them don't speak your language well enough for detailed, technical discussions." Jake decided to push a little harder. "Administrator, I hope you understand that we take our consulting responsibilities seriously. If we're going to help improve your operations, we need to understand the complete picture. That includes worker conditions, safety protocols, and full transparency about what materials you're processing." Veltar was quiet for a long moment, clearly struggling with some internal decision. Finally, he sighed. "Captain Morrison, there are aspects of this operation that involve sensitive commercial interests. I'm not authorized to discuss certain details without approval from higher authorities." "Then perhaps you should contact those authorities," Jake suggested. "We can wait." The administrator looked even more nervous. "That may not be possible. Communication with the home worlds is limited due to security protocols." Amy caught Jake's attention and gave him a subtle signal. She had been monitoring communications since they arrived, and if there were truly communication restrictions, she would have detected them. Veltar was lying. Jake made a decision that would change everything. "Administrator, I appreciate your position, but I'm afraid we can't continue this consultation without full disclosure about the nature of your mining operation. Either you provide complete access to all facilities and processes, or we'll have to suspend our involvement and return to our ship." Veltar looked genuinely distressed. "Captain, please understand. There are forces at work here that are beyond my control. If certain information becomes known, it could endanger everyone on this colony." The fear in the administrator's voice was real, and Jake realized they had stumbled into something far more dangerous than a simple illegal mining operation. "What kind of danger?" he asked. Veltar glanced around nervously, as if afraid someone might be listening. "There are people who would kill to obtain what we have found here, and there are others who would kill to keep it secret." Jake looked at his team. Lisa appeared intrigued by the political implications. Ben was clearly frustrated by the technical mysteries, and Amy was practically vibrating with curiosity about the communications restrictions. They were all thinking the same thing. This was no longer a simple consulting mission. "Administrator," Jake said carefully, "if there are people on this colony who are in danger, we need to know about it. Protecting innocent lives takes priority over any mining operation." Veltar was quiet for a long time, clearly wrestling with a difficult decision. Finally, he spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "Tonight, after the evening shift ends, meet me at Maintenance Bay 7. Come alone, Captain. What I have to show you will change everything you think you know about this mission." Jake waited until the colony grew quiet before making his way to Maintenance Bay 7. The corridors were dimly lit, and most of the workers had returned to their quarters for the night. He moved carefully, staying in the shadows and avoiding the security patrols that moved through the facility on regular schedules. Maintenance Bay 7 was located in an older section of the colony, away from the main mining operations. When Jake arrived, he found Administrator Veltar waiting for him. along with two other Zephyrians he had not met before. Both of them wore the simple clothing of workers, rather than administrative uniforms. "Captain Morrison," Veltar said quietly. "Thank you for coming. These are Kethra and Morden. They work in the deep extraction levels and have seen things that the surface administration prefers to ignore." The older of the two workers, Kethra, stepped forward. "Captain, we asked Administrator Veltar to bring you here because we believe you humans have a reputation for protecting the innocent, even when it is dangerous to do so." Jake felt his guard rise slightly. "What kind of protection are we talking about?" Morden spoke up. "There is someone in this facility who should not be here. Someone who's being held against their will in conditions that shame our entire species." Veltar looked around nervously before continuing. "Captain, what I am about to tell you could result in all of our deaths if it becomes known to certain parties. The mining operation here is real, but it is not the primary purpose of this colony." Jake waited for him to continue. "We are extracting quantum crystals, as your engineer correctly identified, but we are not extracting them for commercial purposes. They are being stockpiled for a military operation that is being planned by Prince Thexmore, the brother of our current queen." The name meant nothing to Jake, but he could see from the workers' expressions that it carried significant weight. "Go on," he said. Kethra took over the explanation. "Prince Thexmore believes that Queen Sephiroth is weak and unfit to rule our empire. He has been gathering resources and loyal followers for years, preparing to challenge her authority. The quantum crystals we mine here will power weapons capable of destroying entire planets." Jake felt a chill of understanding. "You're telling me this colony is preparing for a civil war?" "Worse than that," Veltar said. "The prince has been searching for years for evidence that would justify removing the queen from power. He believes she has committed what our law calls genetic heresy by concealing the existence of an impure heir." Morden's expression became grim. 3 months ago, his agents discovered that Queen Sephiroth had hidden a child many years ago, a daughter who possesses certain characteristics that our traditional society considers abhorrent. Jake was beginning to understand why they had been brought here. "And this daughter is here, on Nexus 7. In the medical facility," Kethra confirmed. "She has been held prisoner since she was brought here, supposedly for her own protection, but in reality to keep her hidden until Prince Thexmore decides how to use her existence to destroy the queen." Jake thought about the restricted areas they had been prevented from visiting, and the nervous behavior of all the administrative staff. "How do you know she's being held against her will?" Veltar's expression became pained. "Because some of us have worked in the medical facility. We have seen how she is treated. She is kept in isolation, forbidden from communicating with anyone outside, and constantly monitored by guards who report directly to the prince's agents." "What makes her presence such a threat to the queen?" Jake asked. "She possesses the royal markings that prove her lineage," Morden explained, "but she also has what we call the emotion sight. She can sense the feelings and intentions of others around her. In our traditional culture, this ability is considered a sign of weakness and genetic contamination." Jake realized the political implications were even more complex than he had initially thought. So if Prince Thexmore reveals her existence, he can claim the queen violated genetic purity laws by having and hiding an impure child. "Exactly," Veltar said. "And under our law, that crime is punishable by death for both the queen and the child." Kethra moved closer to Jake. "Captain, we have heard that humans believe all people deserve freedom, regardless of their differences. We have also heard that you will fight to protect the innocent, even when it is dangerous. Is this true?" Jake looked at the 3 Zephyrians surrounding him. They were asking him to involve himself and his crew in an alien political situation that could easily result in their deaths and potentially damage relations between humanity and the entire Zephyrian Empire. By every rule of diplomatic protocol, he should refuse and report the situation to his superiors. But the thought of an innocent young woman being held prisoner and facing execution for the crime of being born different was something he could not ignore. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" he said carefully. Veltar pulled out a small device and showed him a three-dimensional map of the medical facility. "The princess, her name is Kiralin, is being held in the isolation wing. The security is designed to keep people out, not to keep her in. A small team with the right equipment could reach her." "And then what?" Jake asked. "Where could we take her that would be safe?" Morden smiled for the first time since the conversation began. "Queen Sepharineth does not know her daughter's location. If we could reunite them, the Queen would have the chance to publicly acknowledge her heir and face down her brother's challenge with the support of those who believe genetic diversity makes us stronger, not weaker." Jake studied the facility map. The medical wing was heavily guarded, but the security was focused on the main entrances. There were maintenance corridors and utility tunnels that might provide alternate access routes. "How do I know this isn't a trap?" he asked. "How do I know Prince Thexmore didn't set this up to catch humans interfering in Zephyrian politics?" Kethra reached into his clothing and pulled out a small crystal pendant. The moment he exposed it to the light, it began glowing with a soft blue radiance. "This is a loyalty crystal, Captain. It is keyed to my genetic pattern and will only glow in the presence of someone who speaks truth from their heart. It is impossible to fake." Jake looked at the glowing crystal and made his decision. "I'll need my team. This isn't something I can do alone. The fewer people who know, the safer everyone will be," Veltar warned. "My team has been with me for 3 years," Jake replied. "They've faced danger before, and they believe in the same principles I do. If we're going to do this, we do it together." Morden nodded approvingly. Spoken like a true leader. "When do you want to attempt the rescue?" Jake thought quickly. "Tomorrow night. That gives us time to study the facility layout and prepare our equipment. But I want to meet Princess Kiralin first, to confirm that she wants our help." "How do you propose to do that?" Veltar asked. "My communications specialist has some very advanced equipment," Jake said with a slight smile. "If the princess is really being held in the medical facility, Amy can find a way to make contact with her without alerting the guards." Kethra's loyalty crystal pulsed brighter, apparently responding to Jake's sincere intentions. "Captain Morrison, if you can truly free the princess and reunite her with Queen Sepharineth, you will have prevented a civil war that would have destroyed millions of lives." Jake looked around at the 3 Zephyrians who had trusted him with this dangerous secret. "Then we better make sure we don't fail." Jake gathered his team in their quarters the next morning and explained everything Veltar had revealed. Lisa sat quietly through the entire briefing, her diplomatic training allowing her to see all the political implications. Ben started planning the technical aspects of infiltrating the medical facility before Jake had even finished talking. Amy was already working on ways to establish communication with the imprisoned princess. "This is incredibly dangerous," Lisa said when Jake finished. "If we're caught, it could be seen as an act of war between humanity and the Zephyrian Empire. And if we do nothing," Jake replied, "an innocent young woman dies, and a civil war destroys millions of lives. Sometimes the right choice isn't the safe choice." Ben was studying the facility schematics that Veltar had provided. The maintenance tunnels connect to the medical facility's environmental systems. "I can get us in through the air recycling ducts, but it'll be tight, and we'll need to disable some sensors along the way." Amy looked up from her communications equipment. "I've been monitoring the facility's internal network. The medical wing has its own isolated communication system, probably to prevent exactly what we're trying to do. but I think I can tap into it using a directed transmission through the facility's power grid. Jake felt the familiar mixture of nervousness and determination that always came before a dangerous mission. Lisa, I need you to prepare everything we might need for a quick diplomatic contact with Queen Zephyrineth. If we succeed in getting Princess Kira Lynn out of here, we'll need to reunite her with her mother as quickly as possible. Already working on it, Lisa said, pulling up files on her tablet. I've been researching secure communication protocols for contacting Zephyrian royalty. It's complex, but I think I can establish a direct channel that bypasses normal diplomatic systems. That afternoon, Amy made contact with Princess Carolyn using her improvised communication system. The conversation was brief and conducted through text messages to avoid detection, but it confirmed everything Veltar had told them. The princess was indeed being held against her will. She was in constant danger from Prince Dexmoor agents, and she desperately wanted to be reunited with her mother. More importantly, Princess Carolyn confirmed that she possessed empathic abilities that allowed her to sense the emotions and intentions of people around her. She told Amy that she had been using this ability to monitor her guards and had learned that Prince Dexmoor was planning to move her to a more secure location within the next few days. If they were going to rescue her, it had to be soon. Jake spent the evening studying every detail of the medical facility and planning their infiltration route. The building had multiple security systems, but most of them were designed to prevent unauthorized people from getting in rather than preventing someone from getting out. The assumption was clearly that anyone inside the facility was supposed to be there. When night fell, Jake led his team through the colony's darkened corridors toward the maintenance access point that Ben had identified. They moved carefully, avoiding security patrols and staying in the shadows between buildings. Each of them carried specialized equipment. Jake had human stealth gear that would make him nearly invisible to Zephyrian sensors. Lisa carried diplomatic communications equipment. Ben had his engineering tools for bypassing security systems. And Amy had portable communication devices for coordinating their movements. The maintenance tunnel was exactly as cramped as Ben had predicted. They crawled through the narrow space for nearly 20 minutes before reaching the access point, too. The medical facility's environmental systems. Ben worked quickly to disable the sensors that would have detected their entry, his engineer's training allowing him to understand the Zephyrian technology despite its alien design. "We're in," he whispered through their communication link. The air recycling chamber connects to the main corridor system. From there, we should be able to reach the isolation wing where the princess is being held. Jake took the lead as they moved through the facility's service areas. His stealth equipment made him nearly invisible, and he used hand signals to guide the others past security checkpoints and guard stations. Princess Carolyn's empathic abilities proved invaluable as she provided updates through Amy's communication system about the emotional states of nearby guards, allowing them to time their movements to avoid detection. The isolation wing was heavily secured, but the security was primarily electronic rather than physical. Ben was able to override the door locks using techniques he had learned from studying Zephyrian computer systems, and within minutes they were outside the princess's cell. Jake's first sight of Princess Carolyn was shocking. She was clearly young, probably equivalent to a human teenager, but she carried herself with a dignity that spoke of royal training. Her skin had the typical blue-green coloration of her species, but it was marked with intricate golden patterns that seemed to glow softly in the dim light. These were apparently the royal markings that proved her heritage. "Captain Morrison," she said quietly as they entered her cell, "I cannot express how grateful I am that you have come for me." "Your Highness," Jake replied, "we're going to get you out of here and back to your mother. But we need to move quickly." Princess Carolyn nodded and gathered a small bundle of personal possessions. "I have been preparing for this possibility." There is something you should know, however. My empathic abilities allow me to sense that. We are being watched. Someone knows about your rescue attempt. Amy's communication equipment suddenly crackled with urgent transmissions. Captain, I'm picking up security alerts throughout the facility. They know we're here. Before Jake could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the medical building. Emergency lights began flashing, and they could hear the sound of running feet and shouted commands in the Zephyrian language. So much for stealth, Ben muttered. Readying his equipment for a fighting retreat, Princess Kiralyn closed her eyes for a moment, apparently using her empathic abilities to assess their situation. The guards are confused and frightened. They were not expecting humans to be involved. Most of them are more afraid of Prince Thexmore's reaction than they are of us. Lisa activated her diplomatic communication equipment. I'm going to try to establish contact with Queen Sepharineth right now. If we can get her involved immediately, it might prevent this situation from escalating into a military incident. Jake made a quick tactical decision. Ben, find us an alternate exit route. Amy, jam their communication systems if you can. Lisa, get the Queen on the line. Princess, stay close to me and use your abilities to help us avoid the guards. They moved quickly through the facility's corridors, with Princess Kiralyn providing constant updates about the emotional states of the security forces around them. Her empathic abilities allowed them to avoid several groups of guards who were searching for them, and Ben's technical skills kept them ahead of the facility's automated security systems. But their escape route was blocked when they reached the main corridor leading to their planned exit. A squad of heavily armed guards had taken positions there, apparently under orders to prevent anyone from leaving the medical facility. Captain, Princess Kiralyn said urgently, the squad leader is receiving direct orders from someone who is not part of the facility's normal command structure. I can sense his fear and his determination to follow those orders, regardless of the consequences. Jake realized that Prince Thexmore's agents had taken control of the situation. This was no longer a simple rescue operation. It had become a direct confrontation with the forces that were trying to overthrow Queen Sepharineth. Lisa's communication equipment suddenly came to life with an incoming transmission. Captain Morrison, this is Queen Sepharineth. I understand you have my daughter with you. Jake activated his communicator. Your Majesty, Princess Kiralyn is safe, but we're trapped in the medical facility by forces loyal to Prince Thexmore. The Queen's voice was steady, but filled with barely controlled emotion. Captain, I am sending loyal forces to Nexus 7 immediately, but they will not arrive for several hours. You must keep my daughter safe until then. Princess Kiralyn took the communicator from Jake. Mother, I am not afraid. These humans have risked everything to free me, and they will not abandon me now. But you should know that Uncle Thexmore has been using this facility to prepare for war against you. I know, my dear daughter, the Queen replied. Your rescue has given me the justification I need to move against him. But first, we must ensure your safety. Jake looked around at his team and at the young princess they had sworn to protect. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and trapped in an alien facility on a hostile world. But they had come this far, and they would not give up now. Jake knew they needed a new plan. The guards blocking their exit were too well positioned to fight through, and more security forces were arriving every minute. But Princess Kiralyn's empathic abilities had given him an idea that was either brilliant or completely insane. Princess, he said quietly, you mentioned that the guards are more afraid of Prince Thexmore than they are of us. What if we turned that fear against him? Kiralyn looked at him with interest. What do you mean? Your empathic abilities let you sense emotions, but can you also project them? Jake asked. Can you make people feel what you want them to feel? The princess considered this for a moment. I have never tried to do that deliberately, but I believe it might be possible. Why? Jake outlined his plan quickly. Instead of trying to sneak past the guards, they would confront them directly. Princess Kiralyn would use her empathic abilities to project confidence and authority while Jake and his team provided backup. The goal was not to fight the guards, but to convince them that they were on the wrong side. That's incredibly risky, Lisa warned. If it doesn't work, we'll be completely exposed. If we stay here, we're trapped anyway, Jake replied. At least this way we take control of the situation. Ben had been monitoring the facility's systems through his portable equipment. Captain, I'm detecting massive power buildups in the quantum crystal storage areas. If Prince Thexmore is planning to move against the Queen, he might be preparing to use those crystals as weapons right now. Amy's communication gear crackled with new transmissions. I'm picking up encrypted communications between this facility and several other locations. It looks like the Prince's forces are coordinating something big. Princess Kiralyn closed her eyes and extended her empathic senses throughout the facility. I can feel the emotions of everyone here. Most of the guards are confused and frightened. They're following orders because they're afraid, not because they believe in what they're doing. But there are others here, people who radiate hatred and ambition. Those must be Uncle Thexmore's personal agents. Jake made his decision. We're going to walk straight up to those guards and demand passage. Princess, I need you to project absolute confidence and royal authority. Make them feel like they're facing their rightful ruler, not a prisoner. They moved through the facility's corridors with purpose, no longer trying to hide. Princess Kiralyn walked at the front of the group, her royal bearing evident in every step. The golden markings on her skin seemed to glow brighter as she focused her empathic abilities. When they reached the main corridor where the guards were positioned, Jake was amazed at what happened. Princess Kiralyn stepped forward and spoke. In the Zephyrian language, her voice carrying absolute authority. The guards looked confused and uncertain, clearly feeling the emotional projection of royal power that she was broadcasting. The squad leader stepped forward, his weapon lowered but ready. Princess, we have orders to prevent anyone from leaving. This facility? Kiralyn's response was immediate and commanding. And I am giving you new orders. You will stand aside and allow me and my human protectors to pass. The authority you serve is false, and the orders you follow will lead to the destruction of our empire. Jake watched in fascination as the princess's empathic abilities worked on the guards. He could see uncertainty and doubt replacing their earlier determination. Several of them began lowering their weapons completely, but the squad leader remained resistant. Princess, I'm sorry, but my orders come from the highest authority. I cannot disobey them. Lisa stepped forward, activating her diplomatic communication equipment so that Queen Sephirineth's voice could be heard clearly. This is Queen Sephirineth, your rightful ruler. The person giving you orders is a traitor who seeks to destroy our empire. You will stand down immediately and allow my daughter to pass. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Most of the guards immediately dropped their weapons and stepped aside, recognizing the voice of their queen, but the squad leader and two others remained defiant. The queen is compromised, the squad leader declared. Prince Thexmore has evidence that she has violated genetic purity laws by concealing an impure heir. By law, her authority is forfeit. Princess Kiralyn stepped closer to the remaining guards, her empathic abilities now focused directly on them. Look at me, she commanded. Use your own senses to judge what you see. I bear the royal markings that prove my heritage. But I also possess abilities that allow me to understand the emotions and needs of our people better than any ruler in our history. Jake watched as she extended her empathic influence to encompass not just the guards, but everyone in the surrounding area. Workers who had been hiding in nearby rooms began emerging, drawn by the sense of hope and determination that she was projecting. "You call my abilities a contamination," Princess Carolyn continued, "but I call them evolution. A ruler who can feel the suffering of her people, who can sense their needs and fears and hopes, is not weaker than one who rules from isolation. She is stronger." One of the remaining defiant guards lowered his weapon. "Princess, I can feel your sincerity, but the law is clear about genetic purity." Amy's communication equipment suddenly activated with an incoming transmission. "This is Prince Thexmore," a harsh voice announced. "All forces are to eliminate the false princess and her human accomplices immediately. Anyone who disobeys will be executed for treason." The effect of the prince's transmission was exactly the opposite of what he had intended. Instead of reinforcing the guard's loyalty, it revealed the hatred and cruelty that drove him. Princess Carolyn amplified the emotional impact, allowing everyone present to feel the prince's genuine emotions through her empathic abilities. "Do you feel that?" she asked the assembled crowd. "Do you sense the hatred, the ambition, the complete disregard for our people's welfare? This is the man who claims to be our rightful ruler." The squad leader finally lowered his weapon completely. "Princess, I can feel the difference. Your emotions are filled with love for our people, while his are filled only with hunger for power." Ben's equipment started beeping urgently. "Captain, the quantum crystal storage areas are going critical. If those crystals overload, they'll destroy this entire facility and probably half the colony." Jake realized that Prince Thexmore was willing to kill everyone on Nexus 7 rather than allow his plans to be exposed. "Princess, can your empathic abilities work over long distances?" "With effort, yes," she replied. "Why?" "Because I think your uncle is about to commit mass murder to cover up his crimes. If you can project your abilities to the workers controlling those crystals, you might be able to stop them." Princess Carolyn closed her eyes and extended her empathic reach throughout the entire facility. Jake could see the strain on her face as she stretched her abilities to their limit, but gradually the alarm sounds from the crystal storage areas began to quiet. Amy's communication equipment crackled with new transmissions. "This is Lieutenant Commander Z3 of the Royal Fleet," a new voice announced. "We have arrived in the Nexus 7 system under direct orders from Queen Sepharineth. All hostile forces are ordered to stand down immediately." Lisa quickly activated the facility's communication system. "This is Lieutenant Lisa Carter of the human vessel UHS Meridian. We have Princess Carolyn in protective custody, and she is safe." Queen Sepharineth's voice joined the transmission. "My daughter, are you unharmed?" "I am safe, Mother," Princess Carolyn replied. "And I am no longer hiding. The humans helped me understand that my abilities are not a weakness to be ashamed of, but a strength to be celebrated." Jake looked around at the crowd of Zephyrians who had gathered in the corridor. Workers, guards, and administrative staff were all present, and all of them had felt the emotional truth that Princess Carolyn had shared through her empathic abilities. They had experienced firsthand the difference between her genuine love for her people and Prince Thixmore's selfish ambition. Over the next several hours, the situation resolved rapidly. Queen Sepharineth's loyal forces took control of Nexus 7 and arrested Prince Thexmore's agents. The stockpiled quantum crystals were secured, preventing their use as weapons. Most importantly, Princess Carolyn was officially acknowledged as the Queen's heir, with her empathic abilities now recognized as a valuable gift rather than a genetic flaw. 3 days later, Jake stood on the bridge of the UHS Meridian as they prepared to depart Nexus 7. The colony was now under the direct control of Queen Sepharineth, and the mining operation had been converted to legitimate commercial purposes. "Captain," Lisa said from her station, "we're receiving a final communication from Queen Sepharineth." Jake activated the main viewer. The Queen appeared with Princess Carolyn at her side. both of them wearing formal royal attire. "Captain Morrison," the Queen said, "there are no words adequate to express my gratitude for what you and your crew have done. You have not only saved my daughter's life, but you have prevented a civil war that would have destroyed millions of lives throughout our empire." Princess Kiralyn stepped forward. "Captain, you taught me that being different is not the same as being weak. You showed me that true strength comes from understanding others and fighting for what is right, even when it is dangerous. These are lessons I will carry with me when I